On this week's show, we'll be discussing, is Xbox about to make a handheld gaming device, Mavel announcing an exciting new superhero title, and your PlayStation Plus games for April. All that and much, much more on this week's GamerGuild Podcast. Hello everyone and welcome back to the GamerGuild Podcast, your weekly show where we round up all the week's video game news, stories, and for your listening or viewing pleasure, right here on youtube.com/GamerGuildTV and up there in the digital clouds on your podcast platform of choice. Joining me this week is Mr. Chris.
Good game, everyone. Good game.
Good game indeed. No Rob this week. He is currently busy, so he will not be with us. He should be back next week. We do have a great show lined up for you, but before we get into that, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and ring that bell icon so you're kept in the loop of all the fantastic content here at GamerGuildTV, such as this week's live stream. Chris, what were we playing?
We finished The Order 1886. Once again, had a thoroughly enjoyable time. Finished it in probably, 5.5 hours, 6 hours maybe, just under 6 hours I think in total.
Yeah, I'd say roughly 6 hours. It was 2 streams.
Give or take. Yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it. Remembered everything I loved about the game, why it deserves a sequel, why it deserves a remaster to maybe test the waters, and I think we said a few times deserves a TV show of sorts, because the lore, the world, the characters, it's such an interesting premise. I would love to see more, and the cliffhanger it leaves it on at the end is like, as if it's been 9 years and we've not had anything else from this world. But yeah, Order 1886 live stream is up now. We'll be back this Thursday, of course, for another live stream. But yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm glad we went back and had a retrospective playthrough.
Yeah, I just hope it's one of them that's just sat in like kind of legal purgatory where like the ownership who owns what in terms of the IP is just a bit murky. So it's just no parties. Everyone's just put it over there and just everyone forgets about it. Because that'd be a shame, because it really is. It didn't do well on release, but I think it's become a bit of a cult hit.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway, have you been playing anything else?
I've got the Platinum Trophy in Banishers Ghosts of New Eden. I'll talk more about that when we get to the Don't Nod story in the news. Finally wrapped it up. I was going to do it on stream, but I was saying to you earlier on, it was just the manner in which you have to play it between going back to work and finding that time to play and being in the right mood to be on camera. It's a lot of things to juggle, and I think the playthrough overall would have been a good 15 plus hours, and I was just thinking, like, I did the first 6 or so, and then it was like, maybe not. Yeah. Maybe not. So apologies to anyone who was looking to check out the whole video game, but what I'd recommend is go buy it. Play it yourself. It's much more fun that way.
Indeed. It's just one of them. I have the same. I'd love to do more streams, but sometimes between work and other stuff going on in life, sometimes you just want to sit down with a cup of tea and play some games. Just zone out.
I just want to slouch like a potato. And it's that thing where when you're streaming, you've got to remember, like, again, shout out to everyone to support the channel, because it's these like little bumps in the road that make it all worthwhile. We know we don't put out the most content that a lot of channels do. The reason we do that is because we don't want to hit burnout. We've been doing this for nearly 5 years now, and I think we've had a really good cadence of, you get a podcast every Monday, you get a live stream traditionally every Thursday. We do a couple of celebration things like our anniversary. We try to do something around Christmas time usually. We've done like charitable things in the past as well, so we try and mix it and keep it fresh. But the reality is we've all got full-time jobs. Some of us have kids now. We've all got partners as well, and when you're on stream, you can't talk to them. Like, that's the reality. Like, I'm sat in here for like 3.5 hours playing The Order with you last night.
That's the evening.
That complete evening where I'm not engaged with my wife. My daughter's asleep anyway, but it's still, it kind of plays into it. And then recording this show during the day on weekends and stuff, it all eats into that precious time. And we've seen people drop out in the past. So shout out to everyone who supports us. But we'll always try and keep things as balanced as we possibly can.
But it's that quality time with your wife when your daughter is asleep that you can, it's just us for a bit.
Yeah, and it does eat away. Yeah, it's very, very conscious on my mind. Some weeks where we maybe do a little bit too much, or it is one of them things. But like I said, we try and keep it balanced, and the big driver really is the audience out there. So like when we do maybe like great numbers for what our channel size is. It's all down to you who view, watch along, listen, comment, more importantly, to help out that algorithm. So yeah, appreciate you all out there. And can't remember how we got off onto that tangent, but go check out the Order live stream because it's a fantastic game.
You should, and you should buy Banishers. I have been playing Alan Wake.
Hey,
we finally went back to Alan Wake, and we've rolled credits on it now.
Oh, fantastic! So, what are your final thoughts then on the world of Alan Wake so far?
It's a weird game. It takes a lot of to be honest, because we had a bit of a gap of a couple of weeks between, I think, between like episode 3 and 4. We did have to actually watch a bit of a YouTube video after to kind of piece everything back together fully, because what the hell's going on? Like, because it is weird. Even if you played every episode back to back, you'd be a bit, what's going on here? Like, is Alan insane? Is because we were kind of leaning towards, is all the weird mysticism stuff, is that really happening? Or is this all like some sort of psychosis that Alan as a writer's suffering? Is like... And I still don't think at the end of Alan Wake 1 that it's fully explained.
It does leave the door open. It is that's what I found really interesting, like the psychology behind it, of like if you have potential mental problems, but you are a creative type and you create these worlds and you've spent your entire life doing it. Like, imagine George R. R. Martin. He must like go to sleep and just like have nightmares about characters and story. You know, like when you'll have done it when you're at work sometimes, and your brain doesn't switch off from work and you're thinking about it, and you wake up and go, am I at work today? Is it the weekend? What's going on?
We've all done it when we're playing a video game a lot and we go to sleep and you dream about the game.
Oh,
imagine if you are creating the game, so you're that next level involved.
Mm-hmm. It must pull on some mental strings, definitely. And yeah, Alan Wake, I absolutely loved it for that, because you're completely right. And if you think that element of the game was good, the sequel like doubles down on that, and you really start questioning like reality, writers, like who's the creator and who's the createe. Almost, it's such an interesting premise for it. And the great thing with a video game is you play it, so you are almost like a third character in that story as the protagonist playing through Alan. Yeah, it's so like different. But shout out to Barry, right?
Yeah. So
love Barry.
We'll probably play through the DLC at some point as well. Is the DLC worth playing? Is it?
Yeah, I would say so.
Does it add to the story, or is it just more gameplay stuff?
Yeah, well, because it's chapters, it was released after the fact, but it does just add like another few layers to maybe character development that I think sets up the sequel quite well.
All right.
In a weird similar way, playing the Control DLC also adds layers to the story, especially if hopefully you guys get to the sequel at some point, because again, my game of the year last year. So
yeah, I definitely have it. I can't remember whether it's on PlayStation or Xbox. Was it Game Pass?
Alan Wake 2?
Yeah.
Neither.
Oh, neither. All right.
Not yet, anyway.
All right, I might not have it
yet.
You get
a window.
It might be a purchase down the line. Other than that, I've been chipping away at Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and we're very close to the end now.
And how many hours is very close to the end?
Many
hours. That's one of them questions where people just go, yes.
Yes, it is.
How many hours in? Yes.
I think the clock on PlayStation is saying around about 70-ish hours. And the thing is, we've started mainlining things a bit, so there's some open world sections, because it's not a full open world game. It's like you go to different areas, and the areas are huge and open, but there's a couple of different like zones you kind of go to effectively. Some of them I need to go back and start doing all the different stuff in the areas, because we kind of just went, all right, we just want to focus on the story a bit.
Yeah, no surprise. Is it living up to expectations now you're that deep into it? Or is it getting a bit long in the tooth, maybe? Because I've heard that's been some people's complaints. Like too many mini games, too much like almost like dragging out similar to The Hobbit, where it should have just been one game and now it's starting to...
Yeah,
because there's obviously you've got a several year wait until you get the conclusion now.
There's one section we've played through that is story that I think was completely unnecessary and didn't add anything to the game.
Right.
It's for anyone who knows Final Fantasy. When you go to the Shinra mansion, there's an extra area that you play as a few characters, and it was crap.
Right.
It was just it wasn't fun, and it didn't add anything to the narrative. So that's something that could be cut. There's a lot of mini games and collectibles and stuff, but the thing is, these stuff are optional. So if you don't want to do them, you can just choose not to do them. So I don't mind them being there. and I found most of the mini games and stuff actually quite fun.
I have heard that.
So it's adding something interesting to the game and not just pointless padding.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah.
Do you need to do all the mini games for the Platinum Trophy, and are you going for it?
I don't know, because there's a hard mode playthrough.
Is it Final Fantasy mode?
I don't think it's called Final Fantasy mode. It might be. I'll have to. I intend to do most of like the collectibles and stuff, and most of the mini games and stuff on this playthrough. Kind of once on normal mode. Once I've kind of rolled credits, and then I will make a decision what the trophy list is looking like.
Make an informed decision after the 100-hour mark.
Yeah, I don't think I need the plan. If it's going to be literally another 50 hours, I think I might bow out. But if it's a case of, you know what, you can actually mainline the story in 20 hours,
yeah,
I might be inclined to do that.
Yeah, you could always bow out and save it for when the third entry's due, and like kind of recap yourself on it.
Yeah, that's what I tried to do with Remake. Then I went on holiday, and then I lost access to it because I got rid of PlayStation Plus Premium.
Well, there you go. Just that's why you buy things on disc.
Yeah. I have it on disc. That's the ironic thing. But because the PS4 and PS5s are different trophy lists, which I think, honestly, I know a lot of trophy hunters are going to hate me for this. It's bullshit. It's the same game. I just want what it is. Just have a unified trophy list. Stop people playing things like my name is Mayo on like 3 different consoles and go, oh, look, I've got 3 platinums now. Mate, you got 1.
And if you're extra jammy, you can also change regions. So you get the Japanese trophy list,
it's the same
European and American.
And sometimes you just need to load your save and ping, 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 ping as well. Anyway,
I've done that.
Let's move on. We have a Discord server as well where you can chat more shit like that. Look in the link in the description below. But Chris, would you like to introduce us to
the graciously gathered Gamer Guild Gazette, aka The News, sponsored by our merchandise store?
I was going to get to that. Yes, we have a merch store, and if you head over to the YouTube video, you can see Chris's lovely Gamer Guild hoodie. He's got the black one with the Gamer Guild logo and the orange or yellowy interior, and it looks very nice.
It does. And you saw me repping our sports shirt on Monday at football.
He has. How was it to actually playing?
I didn't notice it at all. So
there you go.
It does its job. It's an undershirt with the logo on, black undershirt. You can get bright colours as well, so if you're out there playing sports with other people, you can get orange, blue, your team's preference of choice with the cool logo on.
Yeah, and I was actually rocking the Gamer Guild t-shirt, just a standard one on the order live stream. I'm not wearing it today, it's just black t-shirt, unfortunately, because that went in the wash.
And as we said last week, 20% off everything starts 2nd to the 6th of April. So just after this weekend. So when the show goes live, tomorrow, discount starts.
I might be tempted to pick something up. I don't know. I like the hoodies, but it's starting to get warm, isn't it? Maybe, do I need a hoodie right now? I need to make a decision. And I'm trying to save a bit of money for my holiday. Anyway, our news section is always brought to you by our Guild Heroes, which you can join over on the YouTube channel for as little as 99p. We very much thank you for all your support and your Banishers playthrough. You started that as members only, didn't you, Chris?
Yeah, part 2 is still available now. It'll be up on free feeds probably this weekend, actually. I go and take on the Blacksmith Haunting and fight the Beast. So there's plenty of action happening in this playthrough, and go check out. Yeah,
right, let's get into the news properly, because Phil Spencer, occasionally he does the rounds of the journalists and just hits down and have a chat. And he always talks, he's quite open and honest when he's talking about stuff, and sometimes he just drops bombshells. And he's literally thinking about getting Microsoft to develop a handheld Xbox thing.
Yeah, he talks very casually about it. So GDC was this past week, which is the Game Developers Conference, where all the devs basically get together and talk behind the scenes about like what's going well, what's not going well, talk game engines, just general news, and basically get together. And I think it was actually, attendance was actually up this year on year, which shows that it's quite, considering all the bad things that have happened in the industry, it's a good sign, a healthy sign.
It's a good networking event as well.
It really is, yeah. They get get together face to face, and there's definitely value found in that across, especially an industry that's got so much creativity. But Phil Spencer was there. He was talking Xbox and all things, and he was interviewed. He did actually a couple of interviews with like different outlets and such. But this one's from Polygon, and he was inquired. He was asked about like handheld PCs, and we know Phil in the past has spoke quite positively about things like the ROG Ally and the Logitech Cloud and the Lenovo Legion Go, and how he really loves it for cloud gaming and Game Pass. And this kind of focused in on that, where they asked him about, like, what about an Xbox branded one? And he goes in depth about just, like, again, Phil's a gamer, and this is why I think a lot of people adhere themselves to him, regardless of how Xbox is performing. And he's a CEO, is obviously, so he has to talk in a certain way, but he always comes across as a genuine gamer.
Yeah.
And he basically just lists a bunch of problems he has with the Lenovo Go and stuff that he's using at the moment. And his big thing is just he wants it to feel more Xbox. And that's a direct quote.
When we say problems, it's not like he hates the device. He seems to actually really enjoy it. It's just a few.
Yeah.
Because he's a gamer and he is a CEO of a gaming company, there's things that he wish it would do that it doesn't quite do.
Yeah, and it's just like us sitting down talking about like the PlayStation Portal.
Yeah.
Wonderful handheld device, but I wish it did blank, blank,
more
blank.
than just remote play.
Yeah, exactly. And so he says he brought the Legion Go with him to GDC. He's on an aeroplane. He has a list of everything that makes it feel less like an Xbox. He says, forget about the brand. More like, are all of my games there? Number one. Yeah. Do all my games show up with the save files that I want? He says, one game that doesn't right now, and it's driving him crazy, is Fallout 76. Now, it doesn't have cross-save, and it's like he's talking like one of us.
Put a caveat on that one and go, Fallout 76 is a Bethesda game, which is owned by Microsoft, Phil. That's under you.
Oh, I think that's why he's openly talking about it. He's like, I know there's blanks, there's gaps that need filling. And
so that's one that I don't think is an issue with the Lenovo Legion. That's an Xbox thing. You can fix that, Phil.
Yeah, and that's what he's doing, isn't he? He's basically highlighting things. He goes on to say, I want to be able to boot up the Xbox app in a full screen but compact mode, and all of his social experiences there, like the full Xbox dashboard, just like what he gets when he turns on his TV. He wants that on those devices. And obviously, Phil, in the role that he's in, I don't think he would talk so flippantly about this stuff if Xbox are not exploring this in research and development. And I genuinely think we're hitting a point now, because of the success of the Steam Deck, all of these other devices, the Nintendo Switch 2 on the horizon, and where Xbox sit in the industry and the way they spoke about the ecosystem. And they've never done it before, but I think this could be the perfect opportunity for them to diversify a little bit and finally enter the handheld market. PlayStation have done it once or twice. They're doing it now in some form with the Portal. Nintendo's bread and butter is there. I think Xbox have ideally, I think from our comparisons, the perfect ecosystem to pick up, drop into a Steam Deck-esque device that's maybe, I'd say, on power levels with the Series S. And then as we go into next gen, your next gen would be the big powerful thing, but the portable, the handheld, would be the Xbox equivalent of the current S model, like the step down, but portable.
See, if I'm Phil and looking at hardware, so he talks about software solution and the hardware solution. Let's focus on the hardware solution. I don't think you need to pitch this up against someone like the Steam Deck. I don't think this needs to necessarily play games natively. Because of Xbox Cloud Gaming and Game Pass, that combination could be very powerful. It'd keep the cost down of this device. And because this would theoretically be a dedicated Xbox device, if you're pitching that going side by side against the Steam Deck, which can play Xbox games, where's the value?
If you install Windows on it.
Yeah, okay, but
you need to do some fiddling.
Steam Deck, bad choice. Lenovo Legion.
Yeah.
You can play Xbox games natively. There you go. It has, and then you've got but it can also do other stuff. If the Xbox is just dedicated to Xbox, where's the value? So you'd have to find a way. It'd have to be cheaper than an equivalent device in terms of hardware for me. Otherwise, why would you buy the Xbox one when you could buy the Lenovo one that has the same functionality? But if you're just going, right, this is basically what I want the Portal to be. In terms of PlayStation, like, yes, remote play is good, but put the full cloud gaming stuff on there as well.
Yeah.
Make an Xbox equivalent. I'm very, very interested in that. Yeah,
it's an interesting kind of roll of the dice they've got to do, because if they go all in on cloud, they risk that kind of overall backlash of people going, "Oh, we don't want to be connected online." Remember how much that stung them with the Xbox One?
Yeah, but that was when they went full multimedia. I think that things have moved on.
They have, absolutely. Yeah.
And the portals already exist, and it's basically sold out continually.
Okay, so what if the solution to this then is two versions? Like the Steam Deck, you've got a native version, that is the power of the S, and a cheaper cloud version, same form factor, just less internal workings, to give you two SKUs. One more expensive has the hardware, one less expensive and is cloud-based. I could see that working. It's like a two-pronged approach.
Please put the hardware in so I can stick a SIM card in there and use mobile data if it's going cloud only.
That's another step, isn't
because
it?
I look at these devices as a mobile solution, not as a primary solution. Some people might be, this is how I play, but I see these as a supplementary thing, which means that if I'm on the go, I might want to play. If I'm staying in a crappy hotel, a hotel that has like crappy Wi-Fi, which most of them do, I want to be able to just go, I'm just going to play on my data plan. Because I'm getting fantastic 5G. Yeah, I just want to be able to stick a SIM card in there.
I would always caveat that, though, now in today's world, with just hotspot from your phone in that regard. That's like one less piece of tech that they need in there.
Yeah.
But then if you're going to get a SIM card separately anyway, it's that like counter argument to it to make the device cheaper, to have less working parts, like a SIM card slot. We know mobile phones today don't even have SIM card slots.
Yeah, you can just do like an eSIM, just have that functionality. So then it's as an option. True. Just make sure the thing's got all the hardware you need, that I can then just buy a data plan from somewhere. And you could get like whatever like phone company you're with might start doing a bundle thing as well. You could go down that line.
Yeah, I mean they're already committing to gaming quite extensively.
Yeah.
So he goes on to say as well, I like the fact that Valve, Lenovo and Asus went out and innovated in new form factors, and I will say when I'm playing on those devices, it almost feels like a console. It feels more like a console than a PC 9 times out of 10.
Innovate's the right word, actually. I think when you talk about, you can't go, the Steam Deck created a new SKU of hardware. It didn't really. It took the Switch and made it PC. Yeah.
We've had handhelds for so long, haven't they? They've just like slowly morphed into these mobile phones with like keyboard with like controllers attached to the side of them.
We've both. I've got a Razer Kishi as well. I think you sold yours, didn't you? Or your backbone?
No, I sold my backbone. I've still got the Razer Kishi for Xbox specific stuff, but I've got my Portal for all PlayStation stuff.
I think they have popularized them. The Steam Deck especially should be credited for like popularizing this form factor of device outside of the Switch.
Yeah, 100% agree. Yeah. But in terms of if they did go down the hardware route, where are you expecting the Switch 2's power levels to lie? Are you expecting it to mirror a Series S
Switch
and
2,
a PlayStation 4 Pro?
I think Nintendo don't necessarily have to keep pace with Xbox and PlayStation, but I think Series S is minimum requirements, and even then, it's hard to say because there's lots of rumours that publishers are not happy with the Series S and feel like getting hamstrung a bit. We keep seeing them reports. Some of them are unfounded, and some of them are never actually willing to say what publisher or anything. But I don't know. But there again, Nintendo have been solid on just their first parties alone and having the occasional stuff. So I think maybe see if a Switch 2 could compete blow for blow for Series S, I'd be happy.
Yeah, I think that should be the benchmark that they're looking for, because then that brings the whole industry back up to that foundation starting point is a lot more improved, because we've seen them struggle with things like the Batman games, PS3 titles, and they run terrible on the Switch for the most part.
That's the thing. It's not even keeping. When the Switch came out, it was well behind PS4, Xbox One. It was already dated, arguably a couple of year old mobile technology as a mainstream gaming device. It's a fantastic console, but I think the Switch 2 does need that in a bit more to it. I want to see what Nintendo can do when they're given the power.
Yeah, and to bring it back around to the Xbox One, I think the Series S should be like the minimal start point, because then the way they've been doing backwards compatibility and stuff, that pretty much started with that generation of the X and the S. And I think the S being there is like your entry point. I think it would be great if they have a complementary handheld device that's maybe the same cost as their next console entry. So you've got the top tier, we'll just for the sake of it, the next gen X is their household console, and then there's the cheap console, which is the new version of the S, but then there's a handheld version. So it's like, if you want to save money, you could go for the cheap console again, but there's also a cheap handheld option, which is the same price, give or take. So you know what, if you're more of a portable person, you maybe commute, you're at university, you're a child who maybe doesn't have a TV in your bedroom, or you don't want to share the living room TV with your siblings, there's like a portable factor element that plays into it.
It would effectively make the Series S redundant, because if this theoretical handheld was the same power as the Series S, why would you go for that Series S over the handheld?
Exactly.
If it's just dockable, or even just USB-C to HDMI cable, just stick it in, now you're playing on your telly, connect a controller, off you go.
Yeah.
I would, depending, obviously, you'd have to look at the price differences, but if you're getting Series S performance and it's within, say, 50 quid, I'd go for the handheld variant for the extra functionality. But
I'm just really curious to see how they're going to tackle this next kind of run of games, because there is part of me which thinks Xbox might go early on next gen, similar to how Nintendo did. You know, when the Wii U fecked up that badly, they just went, you know what, we're just drawing a line under it. We're going like 3-4 years earlier than we would have traditionally gone on next gen to try and just catch up a bit of ground. And Xbox did well with the 360. Remember when that launched a year ahead of the PS3, they got a lot of good groundswell before the PS3 even hit the market. So it could be an option to launch and say, look, if you're looking for playing the next gen games, we've got such a powerful device out right now, with a complementary handheld on the side. And it's just really interesting. But I do definitely think Xbox should have a crack at the whip. We lament Sony not making another Vita time and time again. Nintendo obviously is totally double, triple, quadruple down on handheld when they decide to ditch like the traditional home console and go with a hybrid. And it's done wonders for them. You're talking, 125 million units to date? So
again, I think also
there's a market.
I think all Sony need to do really to recapture the magic of like the PSP and the Vita is get full cloud gaming on the portal, which it's theoretically possible to do. So I mean, I'm guessing they're still working on stuff there, and maybe they're working on the servers and stuff. It might be their infrastructure making sure that they can support it properly. But I think that's what the ideal for me would be. Just basically an Xbox handheld that can have the full Game Pass experience via the cloud, just to keep that cost down a bit rather than paying for full fat console in there. It's an interesting one to keep eyes on. And to round that out, Phil's interview ended with him basically a quote: "Over the past 7 years, we've seen Xbox development team get creative with its software, moving games to new platforms, building up the Game Pass subscription, and making games playable on smartphones through streaming." As we wrapped up the conversation, Spencer wouldn't outright confirm an official Xbox handheld, but he did say he sees a similar level of creativity coming from the hardware team that Xbox has brought to the software world. I think it's important, said Spencer. You and I, we've been around for a couple of days. Look at the real inflection points in our industry. Like, look at the Wii. It was hardware innovation that was linked with great software innovation. So I think he's pretty much, other than confirming it, I think they're definitely looking at some kind of handheld. And it's great to see, because I think if they're not doing so well in the console home market, why not pivot to hybrid and have a slice of that pie that Nintendo's been eating from solely for nigh on a decade now? Well, the thing is, the fact that he's talking this candidly with Polygon and other outlets makes me think he's had these conversations at a high up level with these guys at Microsoft and with his team at Xbox from the hardware and software teams, going, look guys, you need to explore this, we need to check the viability of this, because otherwise he wouldn't be running his mouth if it's an absolute dead in the water idea. We want to do this. Is like, Phil wants to do this and he thinks it's doable.
Yeah, and remember, it's probably going to leak soon anyway, so might as well talk about it ahead of time. And remember, they did innovate. They tried that cloud gaming stick, Project Keystone, which never made it to market yet. But clearly behind the scenes, they're willing to try different things. And these tech companies are always doing it. So, hopefully not too long, not too far. I do think they need to get out before the Switch 2. Because I think if you come out after the Switch 2 launch, I think you're up against another behemoth and a whole risk of marketing problems, where if you go, like maybe this Christmas, you could have like a good solid half a year head start on other competition. Sony don't have anything. Switch 2 isn't quite out yet. You pair that with Game Pass.
I still think Switch 2 could be this year. Although
I thought it was rumored to be pushed back.
maybe, but I still think Nintendo would want it to be a big.
It should be this year,
Although it's a Switch, I think it might have been a February launch or something.
March,
March,
originally.
yeah. So
Yeah.
it could be this time next year. But I think if you can, you get it out before Christmas.
Yeah, I agree.
But we'll keep an eye on that. It's Nintendo stuff. But what we have is more Xbox titles apparently in development for PlayStation and Switch. Still quite a rumour, but what would you expect? Because we've had a few titles now.
Yeah, we know there's been rumours going for some time, and this again comes out of just like GDC and people talking and back and forth. But there's a lot of rumours coming out that Xbox's hardware is struggling, and especially in Europe, it's basically flatlined. And we've actually said ourselves, it's surprising. Like, we've always felt that the Series S in particular has been doing really well, but then we got some figures, didn't we, at the turn of the year, which basically showed that actually the PS5 was selling at like 3-1 almost, and it was kind of worrying. Like, everything seems to be ticking over nicely, and you and me who are new to the ecosystem are perfectly content and happy, but it doesn't seem to be making the ripples in the wider industry that we'd have maybe expected.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's captured the imagination. Well, I think PS4 really caught the imagination of gamers with a lot of their first-party stuff, probably arguably from the end of the PS3 era, when PlayStation were playing a bit of catch-up. So it was almost like it's the PlayStation 5's generation to lose. The Series S, it's one of them things. It's like, if you're going to buy a console, you look at the Series S and it's a fantastic bargain, good piece of kit. But most people nowadays do have big 4K TVs and stuff in the house. I do think that it's flipping over that way. So would you have a bit of buyer's remorse? Would you think it's probably worth the extra bit of money, especially if you're going all access? Is it worth the extra money for the better hardware? So then maybe you go on Xbox Series X. But then are you going, well, I can only afford one console because everything is really, really expensive in Europe at the moment.
Yeah.
Where's best to spend my money? And that's where first party titles or exclusives do come to play, because if your third parties are basically equivalent, you're just looking at the differences in the consoles. And while I love my Series S, I think the Series X is a fantastic console as well. I have a lot more faith in Sony's first parties than Xbox's.
Yeah, it's back to that thing where now they've diverged, and Game Pass is such a big thing, and we know the sales, like outright sales, have gone down.
Such a great deal, but it doesn't have any slam dunk titles from this generation yet.
It's even, I think, the thing this article is getting to is the reason the pivoting and games going elsewhere is you've got devs at GDC like actively saying, why do we bother making it for Xbox? Because there's not enough hardware sales to get us the numbers. Game Pass doesn't get us outright profit. We just get that bump in funding from Microsoft. And like, apparently the rumors, like, some big developers are saying that is it worth it? And we've almost got like the reverse Stadia problem here, where if hardware sales are shrinking, the opportunity for devs and publishers to sell to Microsoft customers is lessened because of Game Pass. And they're almost conditioned to think, well, I want it for free on Game Pass. I don't want to spend £70, $70 on it. In a changing market where not many people have as much spare cash, and like we've seen it ourselves, and our audience have seen it, where you're getting more particular about which games you buy. It has to be a 9 and a 10, and it has to hit the right price point.
We had a conversation on our Discord along that line last week, actually, where I was like, is 7 out of 10 games are good enough? And the answer is yes, it is. But my comment is, I have a limited time for gaming, and so a 7 out of 10 has to do probably a bit more work to capture my attention than a 9 out of 10. It's like, why would I play a game that looks fine, I know I'd enjoy, in a 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 space for 70 quid, when there's a game from last year, which I didn't play, which is now 40 quid, which is Game of the Year contender.
Yeah.
There's
a lot more thought.
That's why it's harder, and we do put a bit too much stock sometimes in these ratings, but the people read them, they matter.
They do.
Yeah.
There's a reason that they have these rating systems across every medium.
Yeah.
But
I do try and read the reviews as well as just the number, like.
Yeah, but in terms of the games themselves, I think finding out that more Xbox games are going to come to PS5 is no surprise to me. I think we see Starfield by the end of the year. I think we know there's a couple that have already been announced. What other big ones? I think Gears of War for me is always the interesting one because back in the day there was a version of Gears of War running on PlayStation 3.
Yeah.
Before Epic and stuff signed the exclusivity deal with Microsoft. So they've done it in the past, and I think that's the big one that people are waiting. Like, again, we've said I would love a Gears of War collection on PS5. I'd be all over that so much. But in terms of like other big titles, I think Hellblade 2 will probably come at some point as well. I think it'll have its launch in May on Xbox, and then I think by Christmas
they might just
it
do
might
things
be on
like
PS5.
For the first party stuff. They might just do right. You get 1 year exclusivity Xbox. If I was Phil, I'd consider just doing that as just a rule of thumb. We're just going to go, no, 1 year exclusivity, but don't actually make it a hard and fast rule. Because if a game's still selling well on Xbox, don't move it. Leave it there. It'll come when the sales plateau. That's when it's no longer adding value to the Xbox ecosystem. That's when you bring it somewhere else and you get that extra inlay of cash. Yeah. It's a business decision in the end of the day. It's like,
and that's the interesting point, isn't it? Is that you said games that sell well, but games don't sell well on Xbox because everybody's got Game Pass.
Yeah,
so like even Starfield didn't sell well because everyone
sell well. Keeping people on Game Pass I would count as a game selling well, because that is the direction Xbox are seemingly going in terms of their like financial structure for how they monetize an Xbox. The fact that they made the decision to put all their first party titles day and date on the Game Pass shows that they're probably more interested in keeping that Game Pass subscriber number up than the spikes from the first party games.
Yeah, agreed. But
they just need
looking forward to seeing what's
ways
coming.
to drive more people to there. No,
Forza,
it helped. Yeah,
drive.
It's just a shame that things like Starfield didn't quite live up to what people wanted. Redfall was a flop. It
needs some wins still.
It needs a good
consistent wins.
Hellblade, I've got my eyes on because I think that's the sort of game that people go, right, I'm gonna take out Game Pass for a month because I want to play Hellblade. And then you go, oh, this is fantastic. I haven't played Halo, I haven't played Gears, I haven't played this. Oh, it's got. I haven't played Skyrim in 10 years. I'm gonna go play a bit of Skyrim, and suddenly you're in. And next thing you know, you're buying an Xbox
or a handheld.
Yeah. Shall we move on and talk a bit about Gearbox, Chris? Because they've just been acquired by Take-Two.
Yeah. Just like that.
Yeah, just like that.
We know Embracer Group have been basically selling off everything they bought a few years ago, and we know the rumour around Gearbox, but now we know who the investor is. And yeah, it turns out Take-Two Interactive, who are the parent company of Rockstar, and also they have the 2K publishing label, so all those sports titles, WWE 2K, NBA 2K, that kind of branch as well. It's all done under Take-Two Interactive. And I think it's a good win for all parties. Looking at the way it's all working, is the original deal when Embracer acquired Gearbox was actually a little bit less, so they've actually probably not turned a profit, but just marking them up. I think they paid about $350 million to acquire Gearbox, and they've sold them for $460. So that's a little bump up, but a lot of the deal was in shares and bonds in each company. So it's not quite cut and dry as just going, they've sold them for more. In terms of it, though, I think for Gearbox, it's probably an ideal win. You're going under an umbrella of a way more successful company that's way more efficiently ran, and you're keeping all of your IP like Borderlands and Tiny Tina's and the Homeworld franchise, so you're kind of leaving with everything intact. Things like Risk of Rain are there as well. Duke Nukem, randomly you get to go with that. But I think it opens the door for Gearbox maybe working on other IP under that banner, and at the same time, probably security. I said security like as a company. Obviously, the layoffs came, I think, as a negative side to the story. I think immediately after they announced the acquisition, they also announced a bunch of layoffs. So that's unfortunate. It always happens with acquisitions, though, because you got duplications of roles. But I think for Gearbox, getting out of that Embracer world, this is the best solution they could have asked for, outside of being acquired by maybe an EA or someone like that, or a first party Sony or Xbox maybe.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm glad you mentioned the layoffs, because I think that does sour the whole thing a lot, to be honest.
It does.
It's the immediate layoffs, and it depends how, because there's not that much information yet out about the layoffs, how many people affected, like the numbers, what sort of job roles. Could be because this could be there's a couple of like senior executives at Gearbox who now effectively you've got doubled up roles and Take-Two are going to take over that. So and we're going to give you a nice payoff. Thank you for your service. But this could be a lot of frontline developers losing jobs again in an industry where everyone's losing their jobs, which makes it harder for people to find work. So until that information comes out, I reserve my judgment and whether this is good for Gearbox or not.
Yeah, I mean, remember the Gearbox have a tradition with Take-Two. I think 2K publishes the Borderlands games, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, so they've had
they've had that relationship for a good 20 years now.
Yeah, probably before Embracer. I think it's probably Take-Two they work with closest.
Yeah, I would say so as well. So, and in amongst all this, we've also confirmed that they're working on a few more games across the 3 studios. And it seemingly is in the works that we'll get another Borderlands game. Richie, Borderlands 4.
Indeed, yeah. Which is
just more of the same.
Which is good news. I don't think it can be more of the same, to be honest. That was the problem with Borderlands 3. It just felt like more Borderlands. It didn't feel like it, after a big gap between the pre-sequel and 3, it didn't feel like it innovated enough.
Yeah, scratched an itch.
It was fun, but when I was playing it, the overwhelming thought was I was having more fun. I think I'd have more fun if I went back to Borderlands 2. So it needs to do a little bit more. Because Borderlands holds up. The gameplay of it holds up really well. The graphic, because it's so stylized, it holds up really well. So I don't know what you need to do to Borderlands to really step it back up. But I think they need to be a bit more creative. Do something interesting with it.
And they're probably well aware of that as well. But I think
why things like Tiny Tina's exists probably. They're experimenting. They're trying to figure something out.
Yeah, completely. In terms of just the overall Embracer situation, they're obviously clawing back losses and trying to restructure and consolidate. This is the next big loss. So Saber obviously went 2 weeks ago. Now it's Gearbox. I don't think this is going to be end. I think Embracer are going to trim so much fat down to being pretty much like almost just a collection of indie teams at this point. And
I wouldn't say Gearbox is the fat. Gearbox is one of the jewels in the crown.
Yeah, but it's an easy sale, right? If you can turn a quick profit and get your numbers up, that's probably why they've gone for this. I do wonder maybe, because we said, what did they get? They got Square from Square, Eidos Montreal and Crystal and the Tomb Raider franchise for 300 mil, which was shocking at the time. Like the valuation was insanely like deflated. I think they could sell them for a good 500 mil and turn another cool bit of profit quickly if they wanted to.
Yeah. I'm surprised like an EA and Ubisoft aren't sniffing around some of these, because if it's a fire sale, it's the IP that I think could be valuable. The Borderlands IP could do really well. PlayStation, I think, and Microsoft are probably a bit stuck because they had in the last few years have had a lot of acquisitions, and Sony have been doing their own restructures and layoffs and stuff. Microsoft got like billions of pounds tied up in
everything
in Activision Blizzard, so they're probably not as liquid as they'd like to be to maybe pounce here. But a Ubisoft or an EA or a Square Enix, oddly enough, Square Enix could be one that's looking at this and going to add out to our catalogue of IP. Is it anything that we want? It'd be ironic if Crystal goes back to Square Enix.
Yeah, but again, if you can get them for either a cheaper price or not. But I would really think, like, my ideal scenario, PlayStation, come in, snap up Crystal, put them on an Uncharted game. They've literally made 3 Tomb Raider games in the ilk of Uncharted, and while Naughty Dog seemingly have no spare time to do it, I don't think there's a better team in the world to replicate an Uncharted game than the Tomb Raider team.
Oh, you could if Sony buy Crystal Dynamics, instead of doing an Uncharted game, you could just do another reboot of the Tomb Raider franchise, but you could reboot it into the Uncharted universe so that it's a shared universe. Because there's absolutely no reason why you couldn't do that.
No.
Which means in the future, imagine if you're playing through a Tomb Raider game and maybe right at the end of the game, you just walk Lara's walking through a bar and there's Nathan Drake just sat there having a beer. Or Sully. Sully turns up in a Tomb Raider game. It's like, holy shit, they've done it.
Yeah. And then Indiana Jones shows up and the
Yeah.
trifecta is complete. And they've got... Yeah, possibly. But I just think what my worry is, like, the talent, like, Adios and Crystal specifically is just going to get wasted away. And all of them are going to leave for security and stuff.
Yeah, the uncertainty over this situation means you've got a lot of talent who is going to probably jump ship if they can because they're insecure in the position now because you don't know what's going to happen. Like, literally, Gearbox, immediate layoffs as soon as they got bought out. So I'm guessing there's guys sat at Gearbox, hearing about the rumours and go, oh, Take-Two, okay, we've worked with them guys, we'll get on well with them guys, and the next day got, by the way, you've been made redundant.
Yeah.
So you might have been hoping that might secure your position, and now you've lost it. So that uncertainty is bad, and I always think it's the best talent that leaves you when you got uncertainty.
Yeah.
Which then diminishes the quality of product they can produce.
Yeah. And no surprise there, but hopefully we'll see it sort itself out. I'm curious what they're doing with this reboot thing as well, because I really don't think enough time has passed to get a reboot of Lara again. I would just happily have another entry in that series with the same like style. Tell a better story, especially because Crystal are working on it, because Adios did the third game in the series, the Shadow of Tomb Raider.
Yeah,
so it's not like the main holders of the franchise have done a game for probably like 7 years now at this point.
Wasn't it almost like they were trying to link it back to the original Tomb Raider trilogy?
That was the rumours. This next entry is going to be like a re-embodying of the original games, but the original games didn't really make up that much because they were simple PS1 games.
Yeah.
So
maybe you do like you look at like Final Fantasy VII at the moment, how they've expanded that massively. Maybe they do something like the next Tomb Raider game, the one that follows Shadow, is a kind of a remake of the original Tomb Raider game, but massively expands the story.
Potentially,
yeah. So then you're into like the original Tomb Raider things, and you can keep the other games still around. You can just stick them out there and go, because they have recently remastered them, haven't they? And you can just go alternative universe. That's a different Lara.
Yeah.
I
mean, that's always the answer, right?
Yeah. Anyway, shall we move on and talk about games that we are going to be getting? Because PlayStation Plus for games for April have been revealed. What's your pick of the bunch? Because we've got Immortals of Avium, Minecraft Legends, and Skull the Hero Slayers.
Yeah, I think it's a decent month. Minecraft Legends, super fun. There's a first look up on the channel with you, me, and Rob. Jumped in as a co-op version. Had a great time.
Oh yeah, we did.
We did. Yeah, we had an absolute blast with the little piglings and taking them out. Really, really fun, creative game. But I think Immortals of Avium is obviously the poster child for this particular run of months for PlayStation Plus. Immortals of Avium is one of them where it got a bit shafted when it came out, I think, last year. Beautiful looking game. I think got stuck between maybe looking a bit too generic, but reviewed pretty well. Like, didn't review phenomenally, but I think, remember last year was the best year in video games, and unfortunately, as we said earlier in the show, if you're anything that isn't a 9 or a 10, especially last year, you're not going to do that well, and it didn't. It didn't get that much of a marketing push. It was published by EA as well, but it looked gorgeous. Gameplay was apparently fun. The voice acting was superb in it, from what I've heard from other shows. It just, similar to how I'm finding maybe Banishers right now, where it just wasn't marketed correctly at the right time, and the eyes just got took off it almost immediately. And they had layoffs, and the studio was hit with problems, and as you've seen.
What I really don't think that helped it is you got Baldur's Gate came out the same month, and Sea of Stars.
Yeah.
Which Sea of Stars was a kind of a surprise hit, to be honest. There was a lot of buzz around it from the industry, but it did really well, captured a lot of people's imaginations, including mine.
It was free on subscription models as well.
Yeah, and then Baldur's Gate, pretty well, Game of the Year, so...
Yeah,
need to say more.
Do you need to say? You came out at the same time as the Game of the Year did.
And then you had Starfield as well in September, and while we have already said it didn't quite live up to expectation, there was a lot of hype going in So which means that a game like Immortals of Avium just gets lost in the mix. Lies of P came out in September as well, so you got some...
When did Alan Wake 2 come out?
I don't know, I was just looking at games...
I think that was after Halloween.
I was just looking at games that came... Alan Wake 2 was end of October.
Yeah, but so then it's like people are waiting for that next big entry coming out, and you got to remember all the usual culprits, EA, FC, Call of Duty, they were all due to come out as well back end of the year. So I think it was just a bad marketing choice all around. Generic name, generic look. I think just killed it dead in the water. But you know what? It's there. They're obviously trying to recoup some of the losses. Usually when the games go on these subscription models, I think it's because it's the last roll of the dice to make as much profit back on the development costs as possible. Yeah. And seemingly this is the month's pick. But good game, just not great, is what the general consensus was. But I think out of the bunch, it would be my most interesting one.
Yes, I would agree.
School Hero Slayer, Demon Castle Defense, indie title pick for the month. Doesn't do anything for me. 2D action platformer.
Yeah, it's 2D action platformer. I'll read from the PlayStation blog regarding it. An attack on the Demon King's castle by a heroic band of adventurers has seen all but one of his denizens captured and imprisoned. Now, as a lonely skeleton skull, you must skull with a single L and capital S, so it's his name. You must save your demonic brethren. This 2D action platformer boasts roguelike features with an ever-changing map and a growing arsenal of abilities, each with its own unique attack, range, speed, and power. Equip 2 types at a time to fit your playstyle and switch out during combat to find the best strategy to defeat your foes. I think there's fun to be had in there if that's your bag. If you like your 2D action platforms, you like roguelikes. Yeah. I think it's a nice addition.
Yeah, I think it's a good solid month.
Yeah, I agree. We got a AAA title from last year, Minecraft Legends, which we had a lot of fun on, and a pretty interesting looking indie game. Can't complain.
Standard trifecta of games for a PS Plus.
And this is for your essential tiers and up, so we do know we'll get... Probably, usually, the cadence seems to be you get a better drop for extra and premium mid-month.
Yeah, the one you just subscribe.
Yeah, which I didn't do. So, sorry, PlayStation. Let's talk about... We did tease at the start of the show about a new Mavel game, Chris. Marvel Rivals is an upcoming free-to-play, team-based PvP shooter for PC with the backing of Chinese publisher giant NetEase. What does this do for you?
Nothing, unfortunately. It's like, I'm a big Marvel fan, but with a combination of superhero fatigue, and I've never really been into the hero shooter 6v6 arena style game, it does nothing for me. It's got a cool hype trailer, looks like fun, but other than maybe doing it on stream, it's nothing that again, it's a combination of I don't have time in my life to commit to like just getting good at a thrilling, fast-paced, cooperative gameplay experience.
Yeah.
But I think it looks like Overwatch for me. I've seen a lot of people say it's maybe a bit closer to Smite, but it's the world that we just don't live in, I think.
I don't know. Smite, I have played Smite, and Smite's kind of like your League of Legends Dota 2, where like kind of MOBA games, where this does look very Overwatchy, kind of like that kind of thing. It's got the art style looks straight out of like Fortnite or Overwatch, that kind of thing. I think this game could do really, really well in the right audience. I don't think I am the right audience, but no, it's free to play PC. Maybe I might consider a stream at some point. Just give it a test, but I don't think. Yeah, I think that if this game is fun and the characters feel unique enough, I think it could be a good recipe, actually, because there's tons and tons and tons and tons of Marvel characters, which means it can keep adding new heroes.
Oh, yeah, I think the roster, better than most. I mean, Overwatch did phenomenal with, like, the hero shooter genre because it created characters who, in a PvP shooter game, you had, like, a background, a story. Like, I haven't even played Overwatch, and I know there's characters like Tracer and stuff are apparently, like, super popular in it. But in terms of this, like you said, like the catalogue of people that could add in terms of Battle Pass, season content, whatever that looks like, they've got a strong enough roster to start with at launch. I think it's got a cool art style, and in a world where trying to break into this genre is probably quite hard, having a super strong IP like Marvel behind you is probably the next best thing you could have.
It could be a double-edged sword, though. See, when you're talking free-to-play games, when I hear free-to-play, I immediately have alarm bells because no game is free. So it's, how is it monetized?
Skins.
And the Marvel IP is an expensive one. We know Sony are getting a bit jaded with the costs of that IP.
Yeah.
So it's, how are they going to monetize this to keep it going, to keep it interesting? And I don't think Marvel are going to go, he's full access to every single character you ever want. I just can't see Marvel doing that. Disney are going to monetize the hell out of the licensing for this. So it really depends on, for me, the monetization strategy. Because it could be, if it's just largely skins and maybe a couple of quid every time you get your base level characters, then every couple of times a year you drop a couple of quid and to unlock a new character. Or you can generate in-game currency by playing the game and doing well to do the same thing. It's not necessarily evil. Microtransactions aren't necessarily evil. It's how intrusive they are into the actual gameplay experience.
Yeah. Agreed. Could be an interesting premise, though. It's got an overarching story about Doctor Doom clashing with his counterpart from 2099. It's going to create multiple time streams, multiple new worlds, and unknown crises. So it's your typical hero versus villain multiverse action adventure that you used to. For me, personally, my obviously choice is the Marvel's 1943 Rise of Hydra, which we talked about on last week's show. That's for me as a Marvel fan.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
This is for, I think, your maybe 15-year-old, doesn't have any money, free to play, get in with your mates, 6v6.
Spend 500 quid on them Spider-Man skins.
Yeah, absolutely. Doesn't have any money, but uses the parents' card to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we might check it out. We'll see. I'm sure it will come to consoles. I know it's PC only at the moment, but again, if I was like 15 now, I'd just be, I wouldn't go to school. I'd just be playing games all day, every day.
No, they play on the phone, so you can just play them at school.
Yeah, that too. Don't even learn.
But do you know what, Chris? Bob's getting some new toys. Bob's getting some new toys. So, Toys for Bob, formerly of Activision, has reached agreement with Microsoft for its first independent game. So, first of all, what do you think this could be? Because Toys for Bob have done things like Skylanders and Crash Bandicoot and Spyro in the past. So I feel like they've been around for a long time, but really made the name a bit under Activision.
They've been around since like 91 or 90, I think they were founded. So they're literally veterans in the industry.
Yeah.
For me, so remember these were making games for Activision, but then they became a Call of Duty support studio. Then under the Activision Blizzard King deal, reading the tea leaves, it appears that maybe they were going to be folded and just laid off everyone, and they reached an agreement with Microsoft to go independent. So basically everyone kept their job seemingly. They work predominantly remotely, this team. And Microsoft have then said, well, go independent, but we still want to work with you. So I think it's the best win for all parties involved. And then Microsoft seemingly are happy to license out. It's not a messy divorce.
Yeah, it's not. This is about the best way you could turn this to gain your independence from a publisher. It's like, you know what, guys? We see what you want to do. We're going to let you do it, but we're happy to work with you. And there's a report actually said, I'm reading from Eurogamer, where I find the quote. I've completely lost the quote, but there was a quote regarding how the culture at Toys for Bob just didn't really mesh well with Activision. So, which is always going to cause a bit of friction. And
it's because they're making like family-friendly platformer games that don't really have microtransactions, and we know the Activision way of things is like churning out yearly iterations of things that are microtransaction-led and hell at 10 massive profits. And we almost seen that at the end when they were put on Crash Team Rumble. Probably the biggest Crash Bandicoot fan, Richie. Yeah. No interest, no shit's given about Crash Team Rumble at all, because it had Activision microtransaction, loot pass, season pass, battle pass stink all over it from the beginning. Now, Toys for Bob, like, if they're into just making family-friendly games, like Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time, amazing title, fantastic Crash Bandicoot game, really fun, but obviously didn't do the numbers they wanted. I think them going independent and maybe having access to IP such as Crash and Spyro still, maybe even Skylanders for old time's sake, could go really well. I've got twofold things for you here.
Yes.
They did tweet out at the beginning of the year something about looking forward to 2024 ahead. Keep your horns up, which
Spyro.
I think means Spyro. The last entry was the Reignited trilogy, which was the remaster package that they did in 2018. So Spyro's had a bit of a time to sit. It did really well on launch. Me and the wife played through it. It's not for nostalgia.
And if it's following the same cadence as Crash, they did the Insane trilogy and then Crash 4.
Yep, absolutely. With team racing in the middle by Vicarious Visions. But that's one of my thought processes. However, now the Microsoft elements came into it. Banjo-Kazooie sequel.
Could be.
This is the perfect team to take Banjo while Rare busy on Sea of Thieves and their other stuff and go, you've just made some beautiful remasters of classic games. You trusted, it is your bread and butter. We're looking at maybe diversifying, because let's face it, Microsoft has no family-friendly games, really, outside of Tunic. That's it. It's all still like bro shooter and racing kind of things. I think a Banjo 3, what'd you call it, 3E? Banjo-Kazooie 3E? Because it was 2E, Banjo 2E, right?
It might just start with a remaster of the Banjo games.
I'd take that as well. And that would be a great testbed for them, but I think it's a good win for Microsoft. It's a great win for Toys for Bob. Personally, Spyro, all the way. Give me a new Spyro game, absolutely. But I think I'm just happy for all pies. I think Toys for Bob, founded back in 89, it's as old as us.
When we're back in when we had X-Pass and we're talking about the Activision Blizzard acquisition pretty much every week for a year, one of the things I did keep coming back to is like how I would restructure is I'd keep Activision is going to be your Call of Duty stuff. That's it. Activision is just Call of Duty. You got Blizzard, just all the Blizzard stuff, King doing the King stuff. And I would take all the rest of that Activision IP that's under Activision, things like your Spyro, your Crash, etc. And they could put them under another banner, under just Microsoft as a whole, and they could find new studios to work on it. And at the time, I probably said things like Toys for Bob and Vicarious Visions. I'd spin them out from direct control under Activision. I would have kept them in house as Microsoft owned, but you're no longer under Activision. You're under us directly, and you are going to work on things like Spyro, like Crash, like Tony Hawk's. These kind of stuff. So it seems like it could be similar to that, only with their independence and working as a second-party studio.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect win for all parties. I do think there's something to be said about them going independent then keeping maybe the rights to some of these things. I think it's a clever way of circumnavigating Crash and Spyro staying multi-platform as well, because that's the big worry is the new Crash game, the new Spyro game, PlayStation mascots for all intents and purpose, no longer being on PlayStation. Whereas if Toys for Bob, an independent company, are making it, then it's all good.
Is this not part of what Microsoft need, though? You mentioned they don't have much family-friendly stuff. They have two massive IP there in Crash and Spyro that are Microsoft-owned. You turn them into Microsoft first-party stuff, that adds depth to your catalogue. You do them well, and you got things like Hellblade, just looking at more the third-person action and adventure genre. Suddenly your catalogue's looking a lot stronger than moving away from just bro shooters. And bro shooters are fun. I like Halo. I like Gears. It's the diversity that I think they're lacking a bit, and which is why they've been going hard with getting JRPGs as well. It's adding that, expanding
something for everyone, isn't it?
Expanding the catalogue and getting away from the Xbox 360 perception of the console.
Yeah, and I think diversifying it is what they need. But I do think appeasing those fan bases on other platforms, because like those two will sell probably better on PlayStation than they would on Xbox, just by like the nostalgia factor, and the player base is probably still there.
We already know that Microsoft are willing to put the games on other platforms now.
Exactly.
But if this is a case of here's a new Spyro game, it's 1 year exclusive for Xbox, and then you have it on Switch 2 and PlayStation 5 next year. Yeah, it's a win-win.
It is just a shame that Vicarious Visions is no longer with us as well, because they officially merged with Blizzard into Blizzard Albany back in 2022, so they've kind of disbanded them and put elsewhere. And they're the ones who worked on some of those type of games, like Insane Trilogy and Tony Hawk's and stuff.
Yeah, you don't know what's happened to the people as well, because sometimes if the studio might have the same name, but if a lot of the key people have already gone, is it the same studio? Toys for Bob seem intent on preserving that studio as it is with the people, which is why they've seemingly like pushed to get their independence.
Well, yeah. Imagine growing up with like Spyro, and then you become a developer or a designer or an artist or something, and you go and work at Toys for Bob, and you work on a remastered trilogy on your classic title, and you're having a great time, and then all of a sudden you're working on Call of Duty year in, year out. And it's like, hang on a minute, I didn't sign up for this type of game development.
Right. Imagine if you were a game developer, you grew up playing Crash, and then you work for Toys for Bob, and your boss comes in and goes, right, guys, conference room, I'm about to announce our next project that's been greenlit. We're working on Crash. It's like, we're making new Crash games. Like, no, we're making the original Crash games again. How excited would you be as a game developer by that news?
Be fantastic. It'd be a dream come true, wouldn't it? Like,
and
that's what you want.
And then but there's a caveat. If this does well, they'll greenlight Crash 4.
Yeah.
And then a few years later, go, by the way, we're working on just a support studio for Call of Duty. And it's not even you working on a Call of Duty. You don't get to make Call of Duty. You're a support studio for it.
Yeah.
It feels like
your name will be in the credits.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Shall we? So, audio listeners, Chris is holding up Crash.
No, I'm not.
No, he's not holding up Spyro.
God, so bad.
I should not be hosting a video game podcast right now.
No, you should. You should be a Call of Duty support studio.
I need a beer.
Or several.
Yeah.
Shortly.
A few hours, yeah. We've got a little bit of time. We've got a few stories. So where would you want to go next, Chris?
Just work our way quickly through the layoffs and the restructuring, I think.
Yeah, we've talked quite a bit about stuff like that, yeah. Start with Sega. Sega has sold Relic and will cut 240 jobs across its UK studios. Creative Assembly, Sega Hardlight, and Sega Europe will be impacted by the changes.
Yeah, it's more of, again, Sega haven't done it yet, so everyone's next to go, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, and I'm reading from the article, quote, "We need to streamline, focus on what we're good at, and position ourselves as best we can for the road ahead. In order to do that, we need to respond to the changing economic landscape and the challenges we're facing in the way to develop our product." It's the same generic stuff you've heard from every company over the last year.
Blah, blah, blah. Everything's costing too much money. Blah, blah, blah. Get rid of people.
Blah, blah, blah. Thanks for your help.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately. It doesn't say who Relic's been sold to, but...
No, we...
Just been sold. Hopefully not Embracer. But Sega, yeah, they're an odd one. They obviously got the Yakuza series doing, or the Like a Dragon series doing quite well. Creative Assembly did or was it Relic who did the Age of Empires remaster for Microsoft? Is it Relic who did? Yeah, it is Relic who did them. Yeah. The Dawn of War games and stuff like that. But they spun off, seemingly good for them. If they're going to be in layoffs and job cuts, then just go independent or whatever. But Sega's one of them enigmas where I don't really play Sega games anymore. Like, I have a childhood filled with memories of them, but I don't play. There's not many franchises they have that I really care about. Yeah,
there's sometimes I think they'll have games that you don't realise are Sega.
Yeah, because they're not like traditionally Japanese or.
Yeah, I know things like Alien Isolation was a Creative Assembly game, and like they're known for the Total War stuff.
Yeah. I mean, Sega in the late 2000s did all of the Marvel tie-in things, Captain America, Iron Man game, Thor game, like that was all Sega.
The Atlas stuff, you think of things like the Persona.
Persona,
and that whole Shin Megami Tensei franchise as Atlas, but Atlas is owned by Sega.
Yeah, that's probably their best moneymaker as well, outside of Sonic. But more job cuts, it's a shame.
Do you think it's because as kids of the 90s, we associate Sega so hard with Sonic, anything else to do doesn't feel like Sega?
Yeah, if it is a blue hedgehog, it's not Sega.
Sega.
But yeah, restructuring can definitely be done better, which I think brings us on to the next story quite well.
Yeah, so don't nod a restructuring, but with no layoffs.
No layoffs? What?
I know. It's a win. We have a win.
We
People
have a
keep
win
their
in this horrible world, yeah. So I mentioned this at the top of the show because I've just finished Banisher's Ghost of New Eden. So Don't Nod, the developer probably best known for Life is Strange series. They've got 7 games in development they announced this week, 4 of which remain unannounced. With releases, of course, like Vampire and Banisher's Ghost of New Eden under the belt, there's a lot more, and it's got bigger ambitions, it would seem. But in this economic space, they've declared that a reorganization is required. So it's got studios in Paris and Montreal, and it's going to reorientate the company, focusing on what it sees as 3 distinct internal branches of expertise: narrative adventure, action adventure, and RPGs. These branches will specialise. For example, action adventure branch is in Paris. Those devs will increase their know-how on how to make better games from game to game on that genre, and then vice versa for all the other ones. Reading from the CEO, he said, "We feel we also need to respond to what's happening in the industry. We need to focus on games that are more AA and a bit of above that, not necessarily going into the AAA landscape. So it's a bit easier for us to all really focus our efforts and our talents to hopefully avoid being in a situation where we have to make any tough decisions. Focusing and building is our main focus right now." So this is why I wanted to bring this up, because Banishers, I've said time and time again, is AA, but it's pushing the boundaries of what you would class as AAA. And unfortunately, it seemingly didn't have that much marketing behind it, probably because of the size of the studio and the publisher and Focus Entertainment. Yeah. But this is where you should put your money where your mouth is. And if you like these type of moves, if you want to protect this industry, they've obviously eaten cost here, which we've said time and time again. These companies make a lot of money. So when they lay people off, it's down to poor leadership and poor business decisions rather than bad games or the staff who are front line.
Yeah, sometimes it is a case of protect the shareholders, which is the shit I hate. It's like,
yeah, absolutely.
Especially when you got literal thousands of people in the industry losing their jobs.
Yeah, but Banishers, I got the Platinum Trophy this week, put probably about 50 to 60 hours into it. Phenomenal storytelling, beautiful game, terrific open world exploration. Very, very surprising, and it's in a time period you don't really get much of. I know we played the Order 886, but you very rarely get something in the 1600s with witch hunting, ghost banishing. Fantastic. It's currently my front runner for Game of the Year. That's how good this game is. So it's probably on sale right now as well. It's been out for a few months, two or so months now. If you've got that time, go support them. Go play Life is Strange or something. They're terrific as well. But I've got a lot of love for Don't Nod right now, and I think these business decisions endear me to them as a brand even a little bit more. And I would love a Banisher sequel, so I'm hoping for that.
I know they don't know they're saying focus on the AA, not the AAA, but I think you can be AAA and in like the £50-60 price point. AAA is more of a spectrum. And when I looked at Banishers, I did not think AA. I thought AAA. Yeah. Not this insane level of polish that you get out of like The Order, for example. Mm-hmm. I know The Order's a bit older, but it looked fun. It looked really interesting, which is why that episode you were missing, I did definitely give it a shout, because like this feels like it's getting underappreciated. I hadn't been hearing any real buzz about it, but it looks like it's really cool. And at a cheaper price point, you can take a little bit of the slightly rough around the edges if it's a good game, and I think that's what it was. And you seemingly absolutely confirmed my suspicions.
Yeah, I think it's currently £35 on Steam as well.
There you go. If you're a PC gamer, go get it. But I do like this approach, like, to be honest. Like, you know what? We know what we're good at. We know what we want to be good at. We're going to restructure. No one's going to lose their jobs. We've got 3 distinct things that we're going to push. It seems smart.
Yeah. Put your experts where their expertise is best needed.
But they're not abandoning the histories. Like, they've got the narrative adventures, the Life is Strange. They're going, we're going to still do them. Even though, like, Banishers is more of action, it's more action adventure. Would you say it's more action adventure or the RPG side?
It's probably action RPG.
So like, although we're doing this, we are going to still do the stuff that you liked us for, and we're also going to do some more RPG stuff. But RPG is one of them. RPG goes from everywhere, from Final Fantasy to Baldur's Gate to, like, you can even argue stuff like Horizon Zero Dawn. Like, there's 3 very different games that all could be described as RPGs.
Yeah, and remember they've also got Lost Records, which is like the spiritual successor to Life is Strange, coming out on PS5 soon. So I think it's like set in the summer of 95. Is one self-discovery, forging unbreakable bonds with high school friends. Swan, Nora, Autumn, and Kat. The plot will pick up 27 years after the Halicon days, and four friends unexpectedly reunite as they're forced to confront a long-buried secret that made their promise to never speak of again. Looks stylish as hell. It basically just looks like a Life is Strange game, but to do with like music and records and teenage angst and anxiety. So your typical Life is Strange stuff, and then but like I said, can't sing Banish's praises more, and if you can pick it up for 35 to 50 quid, I think it's a bargain. Yeah, shout to Don't Nod.
Yeah,
keep nodding.
You played Days Gone, didn't you, Chris?
Platinum Days Gone.
Sony Bend, apparently their next game's going to be AAA live service. Are you surprised by that at all?
Yes, I mean, yes and no. Sony actively said that they're not making a Days Gone 2 sequel.
It didn't do the numbers.
It didn't do the numbers, even though it was, by fans, praised. It was one of those ones where the reviewers came out and gave it a 7 because their review build had some bugs or something, and then when it came out to the public, everyone had a great time with it, and it ran fine for the most part.
I can see both arguments there. There's something we said of, you're giving a build to reviewers, don't give them a buggy build, because a reviewer can only review what you put in front of them.
Yeah, I know a lot of the reviews ended with like, since launch we've done the patch and it plays a lot better, but then again it's like,
but by then,
yeah, but the game itself was, I had a great time with it. The horde mode, killing the what were they called? Not clickers, not zombies, freakers. I think they were called freakers.
Yeah.
Driving around with a motorbike, running them down, going into caves and tunnels, and literally hundreds of them pouring past you. It was a really good game. Story, surprisingly good as well. Big open world to explore. Definitely deserved a sequel. I think it was unfortunate. Got a lot of comparisons to The Last of Us unnecessarily, just because of the zombie nature of it all.
Very different game, though.
Yeah, very different game. But no, I think Bend Studios have something special there. They made Uncharted Golden Abyss for the Vita as well. Also got the platinum in that. Yeah. So I played that, and then unfortunately it took them 9 years to get Days Gone out. So it was a long development cycle, but I think they learned a lot from doing a Naughty Dog game in terms of character and storytelling. So there's a lot of quality at this studio. I think them pivoting to AAA live service is unfortunately that mantra from PlayStation, like, we need everyone to do this.
Yes.
They should have Naughty Dog's game. They've closed down a lot of them behind the scenes. We've still got like Marathon seemingly is having problems over at Bungie, who are the kings of doing that type of game. I don't know what all these other ones are going to look like. What's the couple others? We've got, I always forget the names. The one with a $sign in it.
Fair
Plays.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's Haven, isn't it?
There's the other colourful 80s shooter as well, not Marathon. Something or other. Again, I give that little shits about them because I'm not in Sony PlayStation for that live service model. Yeah. So pivoting the studio from making 2 story-driven narrative single-player adventures to a live service game is like, oh,
I'm actually
why
not surprised by this, because we know Sony made that pivot, and this feels like, well, because Days Gone didn't do well, it feels like this is one of the studios that's very much up for, well, the game didn't do what you do, we are going to try something else. And so this one might actually be just one of the ones that is actually further along in development, that's maybe conveniently had less of a spotlight on it. So I'm not surprised by this kind of announcement. And maybe this is one of the better ones to got. I hope it is. So a AAA live service, it doesn't fill me full of like excitement. But the right game could convince me. Like I'll never fully close my mind to any genre of gaming. So,
well, either way, Days Gone is getting a movie adaptation.
Yeah.
So they don't want to make a sequel, but apparently the IP is strong enough to warrant a movie.
Yeah.
Go figure. Go play Days Gone as well. I think it's on PlayStation Plus.
It might just be a case of they felt the IP would be served better in a different format.
Yeah. The horde mode as well, Richie. It's like, remember, in World War Z, when they just come pouring out of caves and tunnels and stuff. It's like that, but with PlayStation polish. And you can hop on a motorbike and drive away and shoot back while they're chasing you. Really fun. But I digress.
Right. Got a few very quick ones I want to mention before we finish on one story. PlayStation is updating to bring clip support for trophy hunters. So PlayStation may take your trophy clips and start using them. I hope there's an opt-out on that, to be honest.
I'd imagine it's just in the settings. Yeah, you don't want to upload because it's a breach of like I guess your
yes, that's it. It's like it's just for me it's just a privacy thing, but I don't want to go too in. It's not a big story, but it's worth mentioning.
I think they'd have to get approval because it's going to use data to upload the video clip. So I think they're not allowed to just like consume 1-2 gigs worth of somebody's internet bandwidth.
They could be just shitting your terms of service already, though.
Seems like a stretch, though, because it's going to slow down like your internet's ability.
I do hope there is just an opt out on that.
So the premise of that, by the way, is obviously if you are looking like traditionally, if like I get stuck on a trophy, I'll go to Google, I'll go to YouTube and go like trophy guy, trophy hell, I'll name the trophy, and you watch like a 5-minute video of someone doing it or a walkthrough. This, in theory, should be when someone pops that trophy, it'll show you how that player did that trophy in a small video capture of like a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. So I think it just makes trophy hunting maybe a bit more streamlined. You never have to leave your console and go on your phone or a tablet or a PC. It's just all done there in the PlayStation UI, which I think is quite clever. Keeps players in one place engaged.
Yeah, I don't really care for it, to be honest, because I've got a phone. I'll pick up my phone or Google. It's not a big task. And honestly, the short clips you get from a PlayStation trophy prop isn't going to show how you did it for the majority of trophies, in my opinion. Yeah. Anyway, but that aside, anyway.
Depends how editable, I guess, the clips can become, or if there's any kind of reward for doing this.
It seems to be Sony doing it rather than you doing it, though.
PlayStation Stars, they could give you like PS Stars points for like contributing to trophy help in a weird way.
I roll my eyes with PlayStation Stars, but it's worth going in just to claim if you get slowly building up points without trying, you can sometimes redeem it for money.
I think I've got about 10 worth back.
Yeah.
So I'll take that.
Another quick story, Red Dead. You can now get Red Dead Redemption as part of your GTA Plus subscription.
Yeah, it's a bit of an odd move, this one, isn't it? Like, GTA Plus is a subscription model. I don't even know what you get with GTA Plus other than, I guess, Shark Points and stuff to use in GTA Online. But then bringing Red Dead into it seemingly is expanding GTA Plus to another franchise, which in a way seems weird that it's not just called Rockstar Plus. And it embodies all of Rockstar games. So I think maybe with the launch of GTA 6 on the horizon, I think they might be pivoting this subscription to more of a Ubisoft style where like you get all of their stuff under one umbrella. So come to us, play all of our Rockstar games, potentially including Borderlands after today's news. And then going forward, you pay £6-7 a month and you get all Rockstar titles under one roof. Yeah, seems like a smart move.
They're making the mini Game Pass kind of thing.
Yeah. So
I think GTA Plus, before now it was exclusive GTA games, because this is actually the fourth game you can get with it. The other three being the Grand Theft Auto Trilogy Definitive Edition, GTA Liberty City Stories, and GTA Chinatown Wars. Mm-hmm. The last two being on iOS and Android, and the trilogy being on Xbox and
PSP.
Not as part of the GTA Plus.
No, but
yeah,
shout out to PSP.
It's $4.99 a month. So maybe this is part of, we're going to start adding Red Dead into this GTA Plus. But is GTA Plus better than Rockstar Plus in terms of its brand awareness? So
possibly not.
And Chris has got Liberty City Stories on the PSP.
Yeah, I do. Great games.
Yeah. New Sonic games been revealed. Leaked, actually, I should say. It looks like Fall Guys meets Sonic. Could be fun.
Sega. I mean, Sonic just does a bit of everything, right? There's a Knuckles TV show starts next month.
Yeah.
On Amazon Prime. So you can watch Fallout and Knuckles in April. What a world we live in as gamers.
Indeed. And the last story I want to talk to, and the reason I saved it for last, is Xbox Cloud Gaming is finally adding mouse and keyboard support. It's finally happening, Chris.
Finally. God, we've been talking about that for so long. Like, that was one of the best things about Stadia.
Yes.
Was the seamlessness between, you simply had to jiggle your mouse and it cut back to the cursor, like, in seconds.
Going all the way back to Sounds of Stadia episode 1. One of the appealing things for me was Stadia. It was not necessarily the console experience. It was being able to go to PC gaming without spending £1,000+ on a decent gaming rig. The ability to take AAA PC games and get them running on a piece of shit Chromebook was amazing and worked really well. And I've been dying for Xbox to do it ever since Stadia died.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's finally here. If you're on a browser...
Not quite here. It's early access for Xbox Insider members, testing new features. It's early alpha access. Mm-hmm. So it's still early days, but people are getting it in their hands, which is very, very promising.
Yeah. On a browser, you need to enable preview features from your profile on xbox.com/play. Go to your settings menu and then enable preview features in there. It's only on select games right now. Look at the list. None of them really mouse and keyboard specific. Age of Empires 2 is probably of the list of games. It's got the typical Sea of Thieves, Grounded, Halo Infinite, Atomic Heart, Sniper Elite 5, Zombie Army 4, Gears Tactics, a lot of which Fortnite, which I would consider controller games. But in there is Age of Empires 2, which should be my go-to one.
High on life. I think anything first-person works. I still stand by first-person works better with mouse and keyboard, even though nowadays I do tend to play more console. But I do think that is the superior way to play it, just for how it controls and the responsiveness of looking. Yeah. Third-person, I think I prefer controller, so it's pick your battles. But yeah.
Pick your battles, but it's getting close. And maybe by the end of the year, we'll finally have what Phil promised, which is you can buy games and play them in the cloud rather than having to play them via Game Pass. Because that's what still was a bit odd when I was playing. What was I playing? It basically, if you own the game and it's downloaded to your console, it doesn't give you the option to stream it anymore. So because the game's like on the hard drive. Yeah. It's like, well, I might want to, for whatever reason, still stream it. But there might be so there's like some weird
niche things.
Yeah,
just options are good. Options are always good.
Yeah, well, options are always good. So plenty.
Yeah. So let's round up the show, Chris, very quickly with this week in video game history. Anything jumping out at you? Because there's one that jumps out at me immediately. For the 29th of March.
Is it RuneScape?
It is RuneScape.
Is it?
23 years. I was never a big player of RuneScape. I played a bit.
Same.
But
never played it.
But I think it's still going.
Original.
Yeah, it still deserves a massive shout out for that.
Yeah, 29th of March, 2001. RuneScape. Other ones for me, Dynasty Warriors 5, PS2, 19 years ago.
And 7, 13 years ago.
Yeah, and 7, yeah, evidently they like that date.
Kingdom Hearts 2, Final Mix Plus. What is it with Kingdom Hearts and not being able to name games properly?
They just pick things, don't they? Jumping forward to March the 30th, though, the original Resident Evil came out on 30th of March 1996. That's 28 years ago for the original franchise to kick off, known as Biohazard in Japan. Could have got a very different... it'd be interesting if it was called Biohazard in like the rest of the world, how the franchise might have went. Like, imagine if they called it Biohazard and it just didn't sell well. The branding didn't work, people didn't get what it meant, and Resident Evil just didn't exist beyond the first game.
Yeah, Resident Evil.
Like, that could have happened.
Resident Evil. It's so good. It just is good.
Does the Japanese version say Biohazard at the start? Biohazard.
Maybe. I don't know.
I mean, it'd be in Japanese, so it probably wouldn't say it.
But it might say Biohazard in English, though. I don't know. Let us know in the comments below. Final Fantasy 15, 8 years ago.
8 years already. March 31st, because we always like to skip around, don't we, by a couple of days, because people listen to this on a Monday, so it's over the long weekend. March 31st, 1997, Need for Speed 2, which I'll take. I'm guessing you're going to highlight...
Theme Hospital.
Not where I was going, but...
Where were you go? What
Doom 64, I thought you were going to say.
I never
27 years ago. No, but in terms of like big titles, though.
Dungeon
so 1997.
Siege. I loved a bit of Dungeon Siege for the PC.
Quantum Break on Xbox One 8 years ago. Shout out to Quantum Break from Remedy.
Persona 5 Royale 4 years ago.
Already.
Yeah.
10 years ago, Super Hot on PC. And mere 3 years ago, Outriders. I wonder if Square Enix ever paid People Can Fly their money for Outriders 3 years on. You know, it was just constantly, they never got their profits for it.
Have you looked at you're looking at the 1st of April?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought you were going to bring up Cool Spot.
Oh, shout to Cool Spot, on the Genesis. 31 years ago, for the 7-Up logo. the red spot from the 7-Up logo got his own game. He wears sunglasses, he rocks up on a surfboard on a beach, and he fights crabs in a 2D platformer.
How cool can you be?
Go watch the video. It's like made by Virgin Media, Virgin Interactive Games as well. When Richard Branson was out there going, I want to own an airline, I want to own gyms, I want to make video games. He's just had too much money for sense. But shout out to Cool Spot.
Indeed. And with the shout out to Cool Spot, that's all we have time for this week. So make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and ring that bell so you're kept in the loop of all great content coming up, such as this podcast every single Monday on YouTube and podcast services. 8 a.m. it goes live. Every Thursday we have a live stream. I think we're going to play maybe a bit of Hot Wheels this week.
Lead them away.
So keep an eye out for your YouTube. This is why you need the bell icon so you know when the notification comes through. You can add it to your watch list and you're there, and you can jump in with us. We have a Discord server, links in the description below, so you can talk to some awesome people, and you can head over to our store where you can buy the same hoodie Chris is rocking right now. We have it in other colours as well. I like the blue one. My girlfriend kind of likes the pink one.
There you go.
So
20% off.
And with that, my name's been Richie.
I've been Chris.
Goodbye. GG everyone.
Good game.